Okay. Dynamite Delight. This is the fourth time. If you've never seen me before, I am not like Solomonster, JD, Just Alex, Wrestling in Podcast, the Off the Rope Show Central with Slick Daddy. I'm none of them. I botch my words. I forget stuff. I'm not stupid. I'm just not great. If you're watching me because I'm at least somewhat, factual, hopefully entertaining, and 100% honest. That's just who I am. If you love it, you get more of it. If you don't like it, well, I know you're gonna say, boy, bye. You're gonna say, boy, bye, goodbye, boy. Yeah, you ain't my time. You ain't my effort. You ain't nothing. You're going. Oh, I can't believe I did. This is also me. This is me. But what do we get in this show? Guys, this was a special show. Was it a good special show? This is why I was botching 4 times already. Because I'm trying to think, how do I describe this? I don't want to say that it was crap, and I don't want to say it was incredible. I can't. I have to be honest about this. Unlike everybody else that's going to have their own point of view and even their own agenda, I try not to go there. I try to tell you what I feel about it. But I can tell you this was special, but you will find out at the end of this review, and I will pose it to you. Do you believe this is special? Because I will tell you my point. Was this a special Dynamite before forgetting about Collision, forgetting about Rampage, because even though they will elaborate more before Revolution, not many people watch it. Either one of the shows. So you're going to see this, and then you go straight to Revolution, and you may see clips of what happened on Rampage and Dynamite. That's it. So this is it. So let's start. I am not going to start what happened with Hangman Page. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do that later. But what did we get? The BCC versus Eddie and FTR. Now, this was elaborated on for an understanding, maybe Collision. I don't think Rampage, but I think Collision, due to the fact of what's going on with Eddie and Bryan Danielson. Now, that's kind of a good thing. We do not see it here on Dynamite. If they're focusing Bryan Danielson more on Collision with Eddie Kingston, that's great. Now, unfortunately, I did not see Collision. I didn't, because you know what I watched. I watched Elimination Chamber. I did not see it. I was too wiped out to watch it. This is what happens when you have insomnia, and then you have anxiety, and you don't want to miss something, so your insomnia stays on, but then your anxiety just kicks into high gear and makes normal insomnia that could be here up to here. Think how many hours I stayed up. I think I stayed up, maybe if I did sleep, maybe that Friday, it was probably somewhere in the afternoon or evening, about 6, for like an hour, maybe hour and a half. And I stayed awake from 6 to maybe 6 or 7, I think, 6 or 7, because I also did No Surrender. So I took a little nap, maybe an hour, hour and a half, and I stayed awake the entire time of No Surrender, all the way through the entire night into the next day, watched the entirety almost of Elimination Chamber, and by 11 o'clock in New York, I finally fell out. Think about how long that was. That was a long-ass time. No, not 11 o'clock. 1 o'clock. My mistake. It wasn't 11, it was 1 almost. Because I was kind of going in and out from 11 on into 1. So, that's a long time. So, I didn't get a chance to see it. So, this was stemmed across it. Now, we are getting a match between Eddie and Bryan Danielson. I gotta tell you this. Knowing that Eddie's stipulation for the match is that if he's going to do this match, one thing he wants, if he wins, he wants Bryan Danielson to shake his hand. This is something that I kind of said more than a year or so ago when Eddie was dealing with CM Punk, Bryan Danielson. He didn't deal with Samoa Joe. He hadn't come back yet, or Samoa Joe was working with Powerhouse Hobbs as well as Wardlow. So he never was involved. But what I was hoping for, I was begging for, was Eddie Kingston with the contemporaries that he knew, which is Bryan Danielson, which is CM Punk, which is Claudio Castagnoli, who had the most strongest story with him, and a Samoa Joe. That he would finally be given the respect he deserves. That he would go up against CM Punk. And you would have Bryan Danielson, maybe Claudio Castagnoli, and definitely you would have Moxley and a Samoa Joe on the ringside, seeing if the bum could actually get it done. Because they all saw great potential, but he never got anywhere as far as they're concerned. And they could have stemmed it off of ROH's back. Because that's where they all knew each other, that at different times they knew each other, and that is where they could have done it. They never did. So now we are getting this match where that's still a little taste of ROH, because he never, in storyline, got the respect he deserved in ROH or anywhere else. So seeing this is something I agree with. The match was alright, but let's make this clear. It felt like over the top. And the problem is we get over the top all the time. This is what happens when you show too much over-the-top matches, which are dream matches. I'm not saying they did a bad job, FTR and the Blackpool Combat Club. No, I'm not. They all did well. I liked it. But here's the problem. I've seen them go all out with anyone else. And even though they don't do it often with FTR, and they never did it with Kingston and FTR, yes, it was a different dynamic, but still, we see this constantly. They don't save these type of matches for special events. They just do them. And that is a major issue with AEW. It's like they took a little bit of New Japan and NXT and said, you know what, let's mix them together and make sure they're over the top all the time. And that's a major issue. There's very little storytelling in these types of matches. Yes, you got something with Eddie, where he has dealt with Claudio, he has dealt with Moxley, and he has dealt with Bryan Danielson, and he has that type of story. But then you got FTR dealing with Blackpool Combat Club, and they have been having this story, and they had to fight after the match, and it just was Eddie getting choked out by Bryan Danielson setting up for the match. There's no problem with it. Now, the thing is that they didn't do a lot of sponsoring on Dynamite. It's been more on probably on Collision than anything else, which is great. But since Collision's numbers are like this compared to Dynamite's like this, it makes it hard to get hyped for it, particularly as somebody like me who's been doing like Royal Rumble, who's done something like Hard to Kill, who just did Elimination Chamber. I don't always see Collision because either I forgot to watch it or I'm too tired to watch it. So I don't get the full context. And if they did it on Rampage, I definitely don't know what happened because I never watched Rampage. I tried doing it with SmackDown, and next to no one liking it, I just wasn't enjoying doing a back-to-back AEW WWE thing like that. It just wasn't enjoyable. I wasn't enjoying myself. So that's another reason why I stopped. Let's move on. We got Orange Cassidy versus Nick Wayne for the something that wasn't really sponsored ahead of time. I'm sorry. I didn't feel nothing from this match. Zero from this match. No care about this match. And since Adam Copeland wasn't there, made it even worse. I'm sorry. Nick Wayne going after the International Championship, there was almost no build-up into it. I don't even remember them even talking about it last week. It probably was done on social media. And I'm telling you, sometimes you need to build it up within a couple of weeks. Even Impact Wrestling TNA tried to build things up over a week or two at least. And I'm not telling you that they did it perfectly with Scott, but at least you knew it was coming. Because a lot of people don't all watch social media to know what's going on. It's not about being an old-ass man. Look, I'm 52 years old. I know I'm an old-ass man. I know if you see me, you say, oh, damn, you're such an ugly old man. Or, wow, you look pretty young. And if you think that, thank you. But it's not just someone like me at my age. You got younger fans that really don't check social media all the time. And then you got the new casual fan that definitely don't watch it unless you're going to throw it on TikTok. Maybe. So they're not going to know anything about it. So this felt like nothing. It didn't feel like it was adding to the storyline. I didn't even realize he was doing it. And there's the problem. I didn't feel like anything was there. Yes, seeing that the entire patriarchy came out and watched the match, and the match was good. There's no way I'm going to tell you the match was bad. Nick Wayne is a good talent. He does need more refinement, though, when it comes to his character. And I'm not going to say, I want to make this clear. You don't need to be a big, like this, to look a legitimate wrestler. You don't. But when it comes to Nick, you can tell that he's the type of person that's, 19 years old? He looks like he can grow a little more. And it looks like he does need to bulk up a little bit. He looks like he's still growing. And there's the difference between a pro wrestler who's been in the business 10 years, who's in their 20s going to their 30s, who, unless they want to just become big and bulky, pack on a little more pounds, yeah, they would look like a WWE wrestler. But when it comes to Nick, he is very young. He looks like he wants to grow a little bit more. He looks like he may have a growth spurt eventually before he turns 21 years old. I think he's about 19 and a half years old right now. So he looks like he's going to have another growth spurt, at least a little bit more. And he looks like he needs to fill himself out more. Eat a little more, do a little more exercising. It feels like that's what he needs. Change his diet and let him become a little bit more bulky. It looks like he needs to be because he doesn't look like himself yet. But he is young, so maybe in another 2 or 3 years, he will look completely different. Look what happened to Brian Cage. He used to be a smaller guy, and then he bulked up into the Terminator. I'm just saying. You know who won. He was going to win. We know what's going to happen. Now, did everyone else come out? Did Rocky Romero come out? Did Trent? Did Garcia come out? Yes. They all came out. They all did. Along with the Undisputed Era. Along with, not era, but Kingdom. Let's not forget their Kingdom. Let's make it clear. When you see Roderick Strong come out, he did whoop some ass. But all of everything else felt like a big smudge. Particularly once Nick Wayne was done, he had to just roll out of the ring and just sit there and stay quiet while everything else went on. And it kind of looked like a smudge. Not much different than WWE, but I felt like it could have been a little less. I'm just saying. Next. 3. This is something I don't know anything about. Chris Statlander dealing with Sky Blue. I don't know what this is about. Look. We know that Jen Pepperman has now joined Creative. We still don't know how much control she's going to have. Is Tony going to split the authority between him and her? Will she have her own creative team? Will he have his own creative team? And will they take, one will take Dynamite, one will take Collision, one will take ROH, and one will take Rampage and do what they want wherever? We don't know. But as it stands, yes, Hathaway's working with Statlander and Willow. But I don't feel anything. Particularly if it's been done on Rampage. I know a couple of times it's been more than spotlighted on Rampage, not Collision. We're the most unwatched show they have. Guys, it's the most unwatched show. Look, I'm not against Collision. And I'm not against Rampage. Rampage is not bad. It's got a different feel, at least to a certain extent, than Dynamite. But we're talking about Collision. We're talking about and Dynamite. Rampage feels like a waste of time. They need to just close it out. It should be the developmental. Collision should be developmental, and they should say it's developmental from now on. And to be honest, it should be thrown on YouTube. I know they have a contract with Turner. They need to do something. They need to switch days between Collision and Rampage and just switch Collision on a Friday, get rid of Rampage, and put it on YouTube. And let it be a developmental that it should be. That's what it should be. That's what it should be. Because there's nothing there. And if Hathaway and Statlander and Willow have been working their storyline there, I don't know nothing about it. If it's been on Collision, I don't remember in the last couple of weeks or months, they barely talked about it. I mean, they did a couple of matches with it. But it's been spotlighted somewhere else. unless it's been on ROH-TV, and I don't even review that anymore. And then you have Julia Hart with Sky Blue. We've seen Julia a whole bunch of times. We've seen Sky Blue a whole bunch of times. And at this point, what is Julia Hart doing? I felt that with Julia Hart working with the House of Black, you would see more interaction with her working with the House of Black, where maybe you're going to have not just Brody King come out, you're going to have Buddy Matthews come out, or maybe, just maybe, we'll have Malachi Black come out and interact with Sky Blue and make her feel like a part of the group. No, it's just Julia with Sky Blue only. What? Is she representing the House of Black, or is she just working with Julia Hart? It looks like she's just working with Julia Hart, where Julia is just with the House of Black, which is not doing anything. It's not the point that Sky Blue won. I don't care. It's not the point that Hathaway screwed up. I don't care, because it's not being shown on the more prominent show. They're showing it here now, finally. And they show maybe a couple of times on Collision. But if it's on Rampage primarily, it should be on YouTube. I'm moving on. Jericho versus Atlantis Jr. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Now, I know and I knew that there was a promotion that was older than the National Wrestling Alliance. There are many promotions that were under the National Wrestling Alliance 1949 founding. I didn't remember which one was the oldest. CMLL is the oldest. In fact, here's where it gets interesting. Being as old as I am. Yeah, I'm old. My parents, my biological father, which he doesn't deserve to be called father, I'm being truthful, and my mother were born around the time of CMLL's founding. My mother was born 4 years before it was created. She was born in 29. CMLL was born in 1933. My biological father was born in the same year that it was created. So literally, my family line was created around the time of CMLL. My mother was born just before it, and my biological father was born in the same year as it. So it's interesting to see something that's 91 years old, because if my biological father is alive, I don't know, he would be as old as that. And if my biological mother was alive, she would be 95 years old. So, it's interesting to see what they produced. And knowing that Chris Jericho was helped with Atlantis, the original, that he became his mentor. He helped him understand Lucha Libre. It was interesting to see that snippet they showed of Chris Jericho when he was younger. And this is what I was asked. You showed people from CMLL, including, it looked like Mystico. I think one of them was Mystico. And there was no vid packs for CMLL. Why were there no vid packs? It had to be a vid pack from Chris Jericho. Why weren't there any vid packs from the luchadors from CMLL? What was the malfunction? Tony, what the fuck's your malfunction? Why are you having affiliation with another promotion like Impact Wrestling, which you never spotlighted them? Yeah, Impact Wrestling spotlighted AEW, and I'm not going to tell you it all worked out. It didn't. It happened at one time when Kenny Omega did show up, and on Twitch, because that's why I watched it. It was the biggest numbers Impact had ever gotten, up to 51,000 people watching. I watched it. It was up to 51,000. It was 50,800 people at the time on Twitch that watched Kenny Omega with Don Callis on Impact Wrestling. That meant something. But when you flipped it on the other side, when it was time for them to do something with Impact, nothing. And now look, the same thing that happened with CMLL. CMLL might be getting more spotlighting on their end. They're spotlighting AEW. But where are we getting with CMML? What? You got the people there, but you got no vignettes for them, no snippets of their own wrestlers, and nothing about how good their promotion is. Look, I'm going to have my qualms when it comes to TNA. I am worried because they do not have a wrestler who's in charge of it Yes, not everything was great. I want to make it clear again. I was not the biggest opponent of Scott. I was not, but he was a professional wrestler who understood the business. So I'm worried about the guy who's currently the president. He does not have any direction for the company. He's not a wrestler. He's not a wrestling promoter. He's not anything that was in the wrestling business. He is a network executive. So I'm worried about that. But before Scott left, he did say that AAA and New Japan Pro Wrestling was going to still have some level of relationship. Hopefully they will keep it up, because at least when you saw it with TNA, Impact Wrestling, they showed vid packs of people. They showed snippets of their wrestler. Here I get nothing. Unless it was with Chris. And the match was fine. And Atlantis Jr. wasn't a bad wrestler. The slaps was like gunshots in that place. It was so damn loud. They were not just chopping. They were slapping each other's chest to be as loud as possible. Now, everyone's going to understand that hurts even worse than taking a straight chop. The knife edge chop will glance off you. This is going straight, full force here. It hurts worse and can cut you probably even worse. Because that's what happened the last time with Chris when he was, who was he up against? Miru Suzuki, I believe. I can't remember who he went up against. I do not remember. I don't know if it was Ima Ishii or Miru Suzuki, but he cut open his chest right there. But it was a good match. In the end, of course, Chris won. He tapped out, but it was alright. I didn't expect any different. Now, let me give it to like this. The opening of the show, because I'm going to say it now, was done okay. We had heard reports, and I know someone's going to say, dude, did you hear the report of Hangman Page? He wasn't injured. I'm sure when I go and upload this, someone's going to leave a comment saying that Hangman Page isn't hurt. Because they'll look at my last video, and they'll say that it looks like he got injured. And they're going to tell me, dude, he's not hurt. I know. Yes, it was reported. I know. So when you see this, I'm telling you now, I knew days ago. I knew. So you do not have to tell me. I know. And I will leave the comment, already knew days ago. So I know. But when Hangman came into the ring with a crutch, I'm going like, He's not wearing a brace on his leg. He managed to walk in, and he's wearing his cowboy boots that's usually meant for working in the ring, because they were not solid. They were those flappy type of boots that you use when you're wrestling. So I knew that he was still good. So he said, I'm sorry to everybody. It looks like something happened and I can't wrestle. I just can't. I have to bow out. Then Swerve comes out with Prince Nana. I gotta tell you, I was never fond of his dancing, but it got so over, it's a part of it. There was someone in the back going, what the fuck was that? That was stupid. But that shows how much Nana's gotten over. But when Swerve got in the ring, he made it very clear, you know what? We try to destroy one another. I'm not going to tell you I'm a good guy. I am not going to tell you that I did nice things. I did some evil things. But I did it because I wanted your spot. Don't ever get it twisted. I did not respect you. Because I did. But I want to make it clear, even though I did respect you and we did what we did, I am moving on and I'm going to get that damn title. And that is when Joe came out. And he made it very clear. And he put them both over, even though he did shit on them a little bit. Because he said, I've been told these are two young, hungry lions. I don't see no damn hungry lions. I see two warriors, two veterans of the ring who have mashed each other up and has this really weird, almost bromance type of thing. He didn't say it, but that's what it came to. You got this weird dynamic where something's going on there, something's going on there. But you know what? I respect you. You're warriors that earned your right to be in the same ring with me, but I'm going to learn you all, because you're going to learn that even though I give you your flowers, I'm going to whip that ass. And then once he comes to that, Swerve gets nailed from behind. Once he says, I'm going to come get you. I don't care what it takes. I've been willing to do anything. I was willing to basically destroy someone in their own father's dojo. and make them bleed. I was willing to go into someone's home and mess with their kid. I was willing to do anything to get that time. I'm going to get it. And Swerve gets nailed from behind with the cane, not the cane, but the crutch. And pretty much, he's done. I would tell you, it was done well. Now, let me say this about Kateska. Well, Will Ospreay shows up, interviewed by Tony Schiavone. He says, thank you for letting me finish my obligation, but I'm now full-time in AEW, and we're going to be tearing the house down. Don Callis boys come out. Don Callis boys say that we are family, and that, by God, Will Ospreay showed how great he was when he dealt with Kenny Omega, when he dealt with Chris Jericho, and when he worked in the Tokyo Dome. He is the best. And now he's going up against both. Well, they're both going to go up against Kateska and him. And Kateska had a bit of an attitude, which I'm not surprised. He's a little proud. But he made it clear that this is going to be for the Don Callis family. It doesn't matter who wins. The Don Callis family wins because it's always going to be in the family. They shake hands and they nose to nose. And I will tell you this. It feels almost like Will Ospreay is going to break away. It doesn't mean he's going to work with Chris. And if Kenny did come back, it doesn't mean he's going to work with Kenny. I just think Will Ospreay is going to be Will Ospreay. He's going to get his moment. Then he's going to stay for a little bit. And then he's going to betray them and move on. And then he's going to have a war with the Don Callis family. That's the way it feels. Could be wrong, but you guys comment below. And now, finally, the Open. Let me give it to you like this. This is kind of hard. You see, I didn't watch WCW much. So I didn't see a lot of Crow Sting. I wish I had. I just didn't have the time. I was working. I went to school at that time as well. And I got married and had a kid. And my ex wasn't really fond of pro wrestling, so I didn't watch it. Very rarely. I didn't watch it much. Maybe once every couple of months. No pay-per-views, just a few shows, and maybe once a pay-per-view in maybe 2000, and that was it. Unless it was on a cassette tape. No, not cassette. VHS, because I did buy VHS bootleg, because I couldn't afford getting the pay-per-views, because I had no cable. Guys, I had no freaking cable. I had no money. Sorry for making that loud. I didn't have no money. I was paying for rent. I was paying for everything. I was paying for child support because my wife left. I didn't have no money, so I had to bootleg it. But I never got a chance to really see all of WCW, so very little of it. So I never got a chance to see Crow Sting in its heyday. It just didn't. So when we see Matthew and Nicholas, the EVPs, looking for Sting, they go into one room that had nothing but hanging bats. I'm going like, okay, are they going to do like a Crow Sting kind of thing? Is that something that Crow Sting would do? Because that's what I was thinking. Even though I didn't see much of Crow Sting at all, except for maybe some highlights I've seen on YouTube about Crow Sting. That made me think that could be like a Crow Sting. By the time they went to the ring, and by the time they were messing with the fans, flipping off one guy's face mask of Crow, Sting, and then Darby taking his mask off, and the fight ensues where he's almost butt whooped. It was good. Until the Nature is called out. Until Nature Boy Ric Flair came out, walked up to the ring, and he wanted his moment, and they're willing to give him one by beating the hell out of Darby with a bat. And I'm thinking, okay, that won't be that bad. Let him just hit him a couple of times lightly with the thing, because when it comes to they didn't do it. He literally pokes the eye, I believe, Nick, and tries to punch Matt. I could be wrong. It could have been Matt and then Nick. I don't remember right now. Only thing I think of Nature, he looked so bad throwing a fucking punch. He doesn't have the timing anymore. He doesn't have the physical presence anymore. When he threw it, you could see he wasn't even close to it. I think it was Matt. In the face. He wasn't even, he was like this. And the camera caught it. It was so ugly. And then when they did the nut shot, and you got a shot of him in the face, and I'm just like, why? Why? Guess what? It was a setup for our boy. It was a setup for Crow. Because after they heard the music, Matt and Nick got out of the ring with the white bats, standing up the ramp, and then we see Sting come down from the Raptors like he did when he was Crow. And I'm like, I knew there was something going on. He comes, he unhooks himself, he helps up Darby, and they get their butts kicked. Very brief, very simple. No words from Sting generally, unless it's after the show is over. Maybe we'll see it in a highlight, but that was it. He beats up on Matt and Nick. They run away, and now they're having the match set up for Revolution. The final match of Sting. Sting decided he wanted to look like Crow. He wanted to come out as Crow Sting. And that was fine. If there had not been no Ric Flair, that would have been fine. That's what I wanted. I wanted to just see whatever was going to happen with Sting. And that's it. It didn't need to have Nature Boy Ric Flair, who can't even throw a punch correctly, where you can see he's not even close to eat. I believe it was Matt's face after he poked the eyes of Nick. I don't know about just Alex or JD. They'll probably say, oh, it wasn't that good enough. I'm just thinking, what was the point of him doing that? He just wanted to grab some more spotlight. And you can tell now he can't even do the basics anymore. He just can't. It doesn't make a difference when he keeps himself in shape, which I want to make it clear. Ric Flair the man, not the old pro wrestler. Keep himself in shape. Don't drink much. Take care of himself. I want him to live to be 100 and to be happy. Okay? That's what I want for the man. The actual man behind Ric Flair, whether you like him or not, he's old enough now that I want to see him just live his life. Yeah, I know he's done some really bad things, particularly the Learjet flight of hell. What he did, he'll pay for it in his own way. Whatever belief you have, if you think he's going to pay for it, he will pay. But until then, if he's trying to be a good person, let him live. But when you see him in the damn ring, doing it, and it's like this, fuck no. I do not want him in the ring anymore. I don't know about anyone else. They're going to say, oh, I respect Rick, but I wish. No, I'm not going to give him a pass. Fuck that shit. This was stupid to let him in the damn ring when he can't even throw a damn punch anymore properly. Nature Boy knew how to be able to throw a punch that was just close enough to the chin of the person that it was like kissing them. Or if he had to punch him, he would punch him and make it look like $1 million. He can't do it. So fuck that shit. I'm not going to be nice to him. Fuck him. Don't let him be in the ring anymore. I don't want to see Nature Boy in the ring anymore. I don't want to see him do any type of Nature Boy. Like, no. He can't even do his stuff anymore. Look, when he was done and he was going to get up and stand with Sting and Darby Allin after he did his coffin drop on the Bucks, he was having a problem getting up. Look, guys, I'm 53 years old. I am disabled. I have a hip problem where I can't move my leg anymore. The only chance I have is hip surgery, which there's no guarantee whenever I'm going to get that. If I hit the ground, it's hard for me to get up because I cannot move my leg. It's locked like this. Nature Boy has 2 functioning legs. But at near 77 or 76 years, no, how old is he, 75 or 74 years old? Because the one that will not be named anymore, Vince McMahon, is 78. I think he's 78 right this year. He's maybe 74, 75. He's not much younger than Vince McMahon. And he's having problems just trying to get off the mat. I'm just saying, please, no more. I'm not going to be nice. No more Rick. If you keep showing Rick in the ring doing... Fuck you. I don't care who came up with this. Even if it's Rick. Fuck you. Stop doing that. But that's just me. Peace.